I love the Conjuring films, at least the first and the second films, but arguably The Conjuring 2 is the best film of the franchise. And to think that this film is based on true events makes it even more terrifying, and that's exactly what we're going to get into today. We are going to be talking about the Enfield haunting, the phenomena that inspired The Conjuring 2. So to recap, The Conjuring 2 is the sequel to the first Conjuring film, with James Wan taking the director's seat once more, so you know it's going to be good. We are first taken to one of the more recognised locations of the Warrens' investigations, and that is the Amityville house. A few years prior to this, on the 13th of November 1974, Ronald Defoe Jr. killed his entire family, and the Lutz family, who later moved into the house, reported it to be haunted. During a seance, Lorraine finds herself in a vision where she encounters a demonic nun and witnesses her husband being killed. I must say, this was a very strong way to open the film because you're already reeling the audience in with the Amityville house. I also love the shot where Lorraine is in the mirror, but as you can see, it's Lorraine in real life. In the reflection, it is Ronald Defoe Jr. So you can see that she's living that experience in real time. We are then swept across the pond to the UK and are introduced to the Hodgson family, who start experiencing supernatural occurrences after the main character, Janet, plays with a Ouija board. Janet starts communicating with the presence of an elderly man, and oh my god, the shots in this film they make the adrenaline run, let's just say that. What makes this film different to the first is the media attention the case gained. So much so that a reporter comes to interview Janet to get her side of the story. In the interview, Janet becomes possessed by the spirit of the old man named Bill Wilkins, who ultimately tells everyone to get out of his house. There is also a phenomenal scene here where there's a lingering shot on Ed in the foreground and Janet in the background, and it slowly blurs and we start to see the appearance of an old man take place. And then you can see him start to actually speak the words that you're hearing, and I just love that scene. I think it is so hair-raising. The Warrens are then tasked with proving that this haunting and possession is authentic rather than it being a hoax that the family has conjured up. See what I did there? Back at home, Lorraine has another vision of the nun and asks the demon its name, writing it down in her Bible. And then Ed and Lorraine go back to Enfield. Here they consult with other paranormal investigators such as Maurice Grosse, who I absolutely love because he's trying to prove that the paranormal exists because he wants to prove that he can reach his deceased daughter, which is just heartbreaking. And then we have Anita Gregory, who isn't such a lovable character. In an interesting turn of events, Janet is recorded on camera intentionally wrecking the kitchen, which Gregory shows to the Warrens. Ed and Lorraine ultimately leave as a result of seeing this footage, believing that the family is in fact making up the haunting for fame and money. But in a really awesome scene on the train, the two of them find out that Bill Wilkins' spirit is actually just being used as a pawn by the demon nun. And this nun is trying to possess Janet. And throughout all this time, Lorraine's abilities have been blocked by the nun to prevent her from seeing the true possession taking place. The Warrens quickly return to the Hodgson house and they find absolute chaos going down. That's what you get for not believing them, I guess. Janet is possessed and standing at the window ready to unalive herself. After climbing in through the house from the basement, Ed heroically grabs Janet but is close to falling out the window with her. Lightning strikes the tree in the front garden and it turns into the stump from Lorraine's vision. Everything is making sense. Lorraine scrambles to find her Bible where she wrote down the demon's name, Valak, and like a badass addresses the demon by its name, thereby gaining dominion over it, and condemns it back to hell. Janet awakens and Lorraine pulls her and Ed to safety. After returning home, Ed adds the Crooked Man toy to his and Lorraine's collection, placing it beside April's music box and the Annabelle doll, which is a nice nod to the first film. Now, I do want to say the best scene of this film, apart from Patrick Wilson playing Elvis on guitar, is when he and Peggy are in the basement trying to get the washing machine to work. Ed is standing in a pool of water when slowly a figure rises up behind him, which then starts to drift towards him. And after this, there is inevitably a jump scare, but just that scene before is so perfectly directed. The lighting is also phenomenal. It is horror perfection and it's terrifying to watch. Known as the House of Strange Happenings, 284 Green Street was the home of Peggy Hodgson in Enfield, England. And this home became host to one of the most witnessed cases in supernatural history. It all started one night in 1977 when Peggy heard loud noises coming from her daughter's bedroom. When she went to tell her daughters Margaret and Janet to settle down and go to sleep, she found them huddled in the corner with terrified looks on their faces. The girls told their mum that the chest of drawers was moving towards the bedroom door, and Peggy told them to stop being silly. But out of nowhere, Peggy then witnessed the chest of drawers moving towards the bedroom door, as if something was trying to trap them in there. When Peggy tried pushing back against the chest of drawers, it would not budge. The Hodgson family naturally fled the house, absolutely terrified, and ran across the street to their neighbours, Vic and Peggy Nottingham. When Vic went to investigate, he also said that he heard strange noises coming from all over the house. The Hodgsons called the police for assistance, and one officer claimed to have seen a chair move across the floor on its own. Even so, they decided that it wasn't a police matter. Look, I understand that seeing a chair sliding across the floor is somewhat concerning or utterly terrifying, but should they not have helped them further? In the film, one officer does give the details of a priest to Peggy, so maybe that happened. According to the Hodgson family, this incident marked the start of an 18-month-long haunting. When the incidents continued, the Hodgsons called the Daily Mirror to help investigate the occurrences. But when the reporter arrived, just like a horror movie cliche, the house sat silent for hours. It wasn't until the reporter was about to leave that something actually happened. The photographer came back and a Lego brick hit him above the eye. He still had the mark a few days later, and then Maurice Grosse came in on the case. As Janet attested to, the Daily Mirror called the Society for Psychical Research, otherwise known as SPR, who sent Grosse to investigate the case. During his stay, Grosse claimed to have witnessed more than 2,000 incidents of supernatural activity. The most frightening encounter was when a curtain wrapped itself around my neck next to my bed. It was also during Grosse's time at the house where a supposed poltergeist started talking through Janet. Janet would often go into a trance-like state where she would speak in a deep, scratchy voice, claiming to be the spirit of Bill Wilkins, an elderly man who had died in the house years earlier. It was later proven that a man by the same name did in fact live there and died of a hemorrhage while sitting in the living room. Over the next year and a half, more paranormal researchers visited the house, including demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren. Though The Conjuring 2 does emphasise the extent to which they were involved with the case, they publicly stated that they were convinced that the supernatural was responsible for the strange happenings. Despite many supporting the authenticity of the incidents, many others were doubtful of the events and blamed the children for the elaborate hoax. Anita Gregory was one of those skeptics. She said that the Enfield case had been overrated and speculated that the girls had staged some incidents for the benefit of journalists seeking a sensational story. The children were actually caught on camera bending spoons, and Grosse observed Janet banging the broom handle on the ceiling and hiding his tape recorder. Janet even admitted to this, saying that she and her siblings fabricated a few events. Oh yeah, once or twice we faked phenomena, just to see if Mr. Grosse and Mr. Playfair would catch us. They always did. Guy Leon Playfair was also a paranormal investigator involved in the case. She later claimed that 2% of the events in the house were faked, the remaining being supernatural phenomena. After so much time has passed, Janet and Margaret said that while they've managed to move on from that traumatic time, the haunting stays with you. At an LA premiere of The Conjuring 2 in 2016, Margaret said that every step of the way, it's just like a death really. It gets a little bit easier as time goes on, but the fear and the memories of it and what happened never leave you. Having watched The Conjuring 2 quite a few times, I have noticed many similarities between the film and the actual case. And this starts right at the beginning of the film and the case, with the moving of the chest of drawers towards the bedroom door and the officer witnessing a chair slide across the floor. Then you have other incidents like Janet being strangled by the curtain and her being used as a conduit for the poltergeist to speak through. And the interview with Janet did actually take place. Many UK homes watched the spirit of Bill Wilkins supposedly speaking through Janet on television, though many were sceptical of this interview and just said that Janet was putting on a gruff, deep voice. According to Playfair, one of Janet's voices, the one she named Bill, displayed a habit of suddenly changing the topic. It was a habit Janet also had. When it comes to some of the other supernatural occurrences, one of the most far-fetched being Janet teleporting through the ceiling, I am not too sure this happened, to be honest. Over the 18 months, more than 30 people, including the Hodgson's neighbours, paranormal investigators and journalists, said they saw heavy furniture moving on its own, objects being thrown across the room, and the sisters levitating several feet off the ground. This is a really difficult one for me because I really do want to believe the family that this actually happened. The sisters are adamant to this day that these things did happen, and this alone does kind of say that something did happen in that house. Because you know when you've witnessed something and you know you've witnessed something and you're trying to make other people believe your story, that is how they're coming across when they're talking about it. They're not just talking about it like willy-nilly, like, yeah, that happened. They are very serious about it. So I personally think something did happen, maybe not to the extent of what happened in the film, obviously, but yeah, something definitely took place in that house. All in all, it's a truly fascinating case, made even more captivating by the film, and what a great film it is. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and if you have seen the new Conjuring film, Last Rites, please let me know what you thought, but don't give any spoilers away because I may or may not have seen it by the time this video comes out. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.